recording, and here's this recording, and oh, you know what? I wanted to check this quick. Where are you? See, I thought that was the case. I don't know why that keeps resetting. It's pissing me off.
Oh, we're already live. Okay, cool.
Yep.
I can
Just
look
that,
at it.
And
well,
we're
that's
good.
perfect because I can share.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Trash Pandas. I am Lindsay, and I'm joined with Lauren and Dave.
Hi.
Wait, are we like conjoined twins?
Like we're conjoined triplets, actually.
We are conjoined.
Get it right.
And look at you, you're back in the studio.
We're back in the
back.
fucking studio. Dude.
Back.
I'm back.
I'm back. Yeah, it feels good to be back. It's nice and toasty up here. There's lots of people outside.
Because it is not nice and toasty outside.
No,
it is not.
Yeah, it's so freezing cold. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're covering Night Stalker, Netflix new documentary on serial killer Richard Ramirez. Want to dive right in?
Yeah, I'm like ready to do
Holy shit. Is super creepy. Like,
yeah.
Like let's just put the disclaimer out there now. Do not Google Richard Ramirez smile.
Teeth.
I
Like, never.
literally told her when she came over to the house, I was like, I Googled his teeth.
Because the first time I watched it, I wrote that on Facebook. I was like, good documentary, just don't Google his teeth. Well, I obviously love serial killers, so I knew like his teeth were a thing.
Right. I did too. But most of the pictures you see, he has nice top teeth.
He does, but there's this one picture where he like is showing. He's purposely like showing his
Mm-hmm.
teeth.
Yeah, he's
in like a mugshot.
Mm-hmm.
It is the thing of nightmares.
He has like two.
It's
And they're like as far away from each other as possible.
Janky.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're facing different directions and they're very far
the
away.
The way he is described by people through this documentary, like the librarian in Los Angeles, that's like he smelled like a goat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said pungent smell multiple times.
Oh
no, thank you. It smelled like a goat.
That he literally
it was amazing.
That. He smells like a goat. So, anyways, that's Richard Ramirez.
Sums him up right there. Just
Sums him
All right. Well, hey,
Looking
thanks for
good.
watching, and we'll catch you next episode with you. But no, so it starts off. It's the summer of '85. And so you've got Bruce Springsteen, Glory Days playing.
Yeah.
Everybody's just bragging on the city of Los Angeles, because they just had the Olympics. Crime is way down. However, temperatures are way up. Like the news broadcast where they're like, "Hey, it's going to be 107 degrees today," and I'm like, "No, I'm okay with it being like I'm okay with snow. Like I'm much better with."
Legitimately though, I was like, I could go for that right now.
No.
Right about now, I could go for that.
107.
No, you can put on another sweater. You can only get so naked.
Right.
Like you can only take so many clothes off.
Yeah.
Like,
It's true.
and especially, and you got to remember. So again, 85. Not a lot of places. Not as many places had air conditioning.
AC.
Not a thing. But then everybody's bragging about L.A. And then the one guy, I think he was a reporter, goes, "Yeah, but there were two LAs.
Yeah.
Like there's the Hollywood side, which is like the super glam celebrities, yada yada,
beautiful houses.
Oh yeah, and then there's the dark side.
Yeah.
And, just talking about how like that side of LA has always attracted like the wackadoos, like just people that are into some crazy shit, where like a lot of crime happens, a lot of drug happens, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, just in general, a lot of serial killers in California or hail from California or have had some kind of tie to California.
Yeah.
So yeah, California.
Yeah, that's like a common
creepy
little common denominator in a lot of them.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people there. And I forgot. I forgot. It started off with they started showing the VHS that Gil had made, the homicide detective, when they were trying to release the information to the other police departments, because that was kind of the backdrop for this. Like, okay, so there's all this great stuff going on in the city, but oh, by the way, there's this serial killer thing happening too.
Right.
Not so good.
Which is riding on the coattails of the Hillside Strangler, which was another huge serial killer. Actually worked with another person.
Yep.
They were like cousins or something.
Yeah, they're cousins.
Too.
Yeah. So riding on the coattails of that.
And they did. They get so like this episode was like really like a lot, as most of these documentaries are. Like the first episode is a lot of like plot exposition, a lot of like deep background on the characters. Like they're going to Gil's background and how what's his last Perillo, and so he's Latino. He grew up around gangs. He was in the gangs. His parents were worried about him, and finally like a detective or a sergeant called his parents and was like, "Look, your kid's gonna wind up dead." And so
or in prison.
Yeah, and so they sign him up. He's 17, and they sign for him to go into the military. He winds up going to Vietnam. Saw a lot of heavy combat, that kind of stuff. This is like the one. Like this guy is such a great guy. Like throughout the course of this day, he's such a great guy. But like it's this one dick thing about him was that he has 3 things that he wants to do when he gets back from Vietnam.
Yep.
One, he wants to get back together with his ex-girlfriend that dumped him. Just so he can dump her. Like that's
like one of the main things he has like going for his life. He's
kind of a dick move. I mean,
I just got back from Vietnam. I didn't die, so I'm gonna go and like try and like vindicate.
Break a heart.
Yeah, like
right. And so it didn't quite work out that way because he got her
married.
back and they got married. He wanted to go to college because like nobody in his family had ever gone to college before, and he did that. And then he wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
And so he became a cop in 1971.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, the next thing that I have is him talking about Detective Frank Salerno and how he was like a huge deal at the time. Everyone knew who he was because of his work with like the Hillside Strangler. And then I don't know. Do you guys have more about the next thing I go into is like they start doing the murders.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, there was
just goes right into it.
There was just the one the guy, the reporter that had covered a lot of these cases said they called the homicide squad, they called them the Bulldogs because they were like once they got on a case they never let it go. He said it was crazy like how many cases they would solve 10, 15, 20 years later just because they wouldn't let up on stuff and they'd always come back to it. Gil became a cop in 71, basically idolized these homicide detectives in general, and then got assigned to homicide in 81. So he was 10 years in.
And then we have basically the first murder that we see, March 17th, 1985. Which
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Right. I know, he was just like, it was St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, whoa.
Which happens in Rosemead, Los Angeles. Gil shows up to investigate this murder. Basically walks in and there's blood spatter everywhere. Victim is identified as Dale Okazaki. She's 34 years old. She had been shot in the head.
So before this, though,
the roommate.
No.
Oh.
So there's that little vignette with the lady that had been in the Salvation Army store. And she was, there's this guy. He's really crazy looking. He smells.
AC/DC hat.
And she's like, I picked up this hat that had AC/DC on it. She's like, I don't even know what the hell that was. She's like, so I put it back down, and then this super creepy, smelly guy picks up the hat and walks away with it. Yeah. And then she's like, and then I'm in my car driving home. This car almost, cuts me off, runs me off the road, and I look over, and it's that guy. And she said she noticed that he had a pentagram tattoo on the back of his hand, so that was like she encountered Ramirez and didn't even know that it was him at the time because
nobody knew who it was at the time.
but that night, people would start to know who he was because that AC/DC hat that he had bought. Oh, guess what? He left that at the crime scene.
And it's interesting because, like, he leaves stuff all the time. Like, it seems like that's, like, a common thing. Like, whether it's, like, there's a lot of, like, things that I'm like, if DNA was, like, more...
Right.
Like, testing was, like, more... They would have gotten him so much sooner just because of, like, all the shit that he had there.
That's the one thing that's almost just enraging about this whole process is the number of different times they could have had him.
Yeah.
Or that somebody screwed up the investigation.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly. Like I was
Diane Feinstein.
Yeah. All these people that are just like not giving up information or like that's like a common thing too with just generally speaking with any kind of like crime things where like different jurisdictions aren't talking to each other, you know, about what they're finding.
But yeah, so like what you were saying is like, you know, he kills this one lady. Her roommate comes home, and she like puts her hands up to, you know, against a gun. Putting your hands up doesn't really do much of anything,
Right?
But so he pulls the trigger and shoots, and the bullet deflects off of the keys that she has in her hand, and then he goes running back into the house. She goes running because they were at the back. They had ran into each other at the back door. She goes running around the house, and she didn't look back, so she assumed he was going to run out the back of the house. No, he ran back through the house, and they wind up running into each other at the front of the house again.
Right.
And he pulls his gun, and you got to give her credit for having the presence of mind and the balls, because he points the gun at her again, and she's like, "Look, dude,
You already shot me.
You already
Yeah.
shot me once. Do
Yeah.
you really need to shoot me again?"
Yeah.
And he just calmly walked away, like didn't run,
Yeah.
didn't.
So bizarre too. Like, oh my god, the entire thing is just really like bizarre to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That happens like a lot.
They show actual crime scene photos, which, you know, disturbing.
A little
to
graphic.
see.
Oh, yeah,
it's
very
very
graphic.
So the same night, tell me if I'm wrong, but it was the same night, right? So
It's about 40 minutes later that the
Yeah.
second thing happens.
So he runs into.
Well, and there's an odd coincidence still at the crime scene where the woman who got who did not get shot because it reflected off her keys. Turns out,
Maria Hernandez.
her mom is old friends with
Yeah,
Gil. Like
yeah.
they grew up 3 houses apart in the old neighborhood.
Right.
So it's already like
So
hitting home for him.
right, exactly. So Richard Ramirez goes on to basically like try to carjack Sally Ann Lou. He yanked her from her car and shot her. And they were able to tie that crime to to Dale Okazaki because it was the same caliber weapon.
Well, yeah, because they said, you know, and they're very cautious through all of this. They're like, okay, look, you know, it's 40 minutes later. It's within running distance during that time. It's also a 22, but like we're not making assumptions because, you know, but it probably that guy. The one thing that I thought was really weird is like he gets into Gil gets into the class that he took. And he says that, you know, the one thing I remember this one
Sexual
deviancy
yeah.
that you have, like that's their compulsion is to see that
fear.
fright, and that gets back to, you know, she was so nonchalant about, do you really have to shoot me again? He wasn't getting the
Yeah.
rush from being
Of
about
her
to
being
shoot her,
scared
right?
and
So and that
fleeing
probably
for
threw him
her
off,
life.
yeah, which probably saved her life.
Yeah. So, but that gets him thinking about maybe that's why Maria survived. And so he's like, he has this deviancy that he likes seeing the fear. So Gil starts thinking that it's one person that did both of these. So March 27th, 10 days after the first 3 attacks, Whittier, Los Angeles, he breaks into a house. He executes the sleeping male, killed with a .22 caliber. The female he stabs above her vagina, rapes, then cuts her eyes out and takes her eyes with him.
That's like the weirdest part of the entire I mean, like that's all terrible, but how weird is it that he would just like take the eyes?
Well, and just like one thing that like we'll go back to with Richard Ramirez is like he doesn't have a pattern. He's like not consistent.
Well, they also said like, well, maybe she like looked at him or
Yeah.
like had
Yeah.
become like aware of like what he looked like or was too familiar with him.
or like wouldn't look away or
wouldn't look
something. I
away.
don't know. So this was Maxine Zazera, who was 44, and Vincent Zazera, who was 64. And this is where they find the shoe print that they think is
For the first time.
And this is
Yeah,
where
for the first time.
and this is where everything goes sideways in my head.
Yeah.
Because it's as you're watching it, it's just one of those dumb, like just the way my brain fixates on dumb shit. So every ruler that they have in every single one of these crime scene
It's
photographs
like upside down.
it's from the San Dimas
yeah.
Lumber Company.
Oh my
And so for those of you who are 80s nerds, Bill and Ted went to San Dimas High. And so like from that moment on, so in episode 1, I am already ruined and I keep looking for Bill and Ted throughout the course of the next 3 episodes.
This is all just one elaborate movie, Bill and Ted movie.
It's just one setup. It's
Okay, so they find this shoe print, and they think it's like 11 to 12 male shoe print. The next thing we hear about is Anastasia Hornas. This trigger warning. This is really bad. I mean, it's all bad.
It's really bad.
It's all bad.
bad.
It's all bad.
Very bad, yes.
I mean, we just talked about somebody taking someone else's eyeballs. So, yeah.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. So, Anastasia Hornas, she's 6 years old. She is taken through her bedroom window. She says, like,
see, and that's like that's the creep. I mean, there are a lot of creepy things about this guy, but just opens up a window.
Yeah.
People are home.
Yeah.
Goes into the daughter's
he's
bedroom.
Not scared
and just grabs her
at all
No.
of anyone like
Right.
seeing him, catching him. He's
Right.
just like, I'll just kill him. Like,
right.
Mhm.
He doesn't care.
terrifying.
So, she is sexually assaulted in the car, and he's taking her somewhere. He makes her get into a duffel bag to go into the house that he takes her to. I wrote when they got there, they went through Nightmare House because it just she was like, I knew I wasn't.
She said it's dark, it's dingy,
Right.
there's
Dirty.
the windows are covered up by
there's
cloth.
like dead flies.
Oh, yeah, there's
and like
food wrappers
and
everywhere,
everything.
yeah.
So she's like, I know I wasn't at home.
And Madonna
yeah, that's
And
what
playing
I wrote.
Madonna,
Yeah.
over and
like a
over and
virgin,
over again. Yeah, she said it's like
Holiday.
holiday.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
And there she is repeatedly raped.
See, and they never, and this is one of those, again, just the things that my brain fixates on. They never really get into, okay, like, and nowhere in the course of these episodes do they double back on, okay, so why did he have her get in a duffel bag? I don't.
Was he living with someone?
Well, because they don't lead you. At no point are you led to believe like he's living with someone or that there's anybody else living there or anything like that. Because he keeps her there for quite some time. It's not like there's anybody there while
it's
he's
not like a
raping
10-minute
her.
ordeal.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, so I mean, it's not. It's just weird. Like, did he just not want?
She said that she had to like keep on saying like I want to go to the bathroom, and then he would like stop and let her go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, and then come back out and go right back to it.
Yeah.
So it's like this was like a prolonged experience.
Oh,
It
yeah.
wasn't like, oh, be quiet because my roommate's next door. You know what I mean? Or like my mom's upstairs. Like nobody's living with this guy, obviously.
And it sounded like, I don't know, from what I was putting together, that he was like maybe homeless for a part of it because he hung out at like the bus depot. and he
Yeah,
hung
I also
around
got
home-
that.
Yeah.
That vibe from that.
So I don't know.
And also like the whole like kind of like trash hoarding tendency like is like a thing that I feel like a lot of like people who have experienced like separation or like loss of like their belongings or like households and stuff that they tend to kind of do.
So what ends up happening is he puts her back in the bag, puts her back in the car, drops her off at a gas station, and tells her to have them call 911.
Like literally call the police right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna like
They
take
don't
off.
have nine. Did they have?
Yeah. Oh, 911's been around. Yeah.
Since the Kitty Genovese story, right? That was in the 60s?
Yeah.
70s? Okay. So, anyways. So, she is, she survives, and they interview her, and she's amazing. Like, the way she's like, I wasn't going to let this, like, determine my life.
Yeah.
And, like, influence
Oh yeah,
me in
the
that
current day
way.
her, where
Oh,
she's like, I could have gone dark.
Yeah.
I could have,
Yeah.
she's like, but I wasn't gonna let it destroy my
It's
life.
the like I'm not a victim, I'm a victor kind of like mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome. Those formative years, like, as a kid, and, like...
Yeah, 6 years old, dude, to like go through something like that.
The
she
amount
even like
of therapy.
She describes and stuff that she said like it hurts or like like please don't, or I was saying no, I was
Oh,
saying
yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
And like just that's like traumatizing. That's like full on traumatizing, and to like move past that
and be able to have a husband and children
and be able to talk about it. So
Right.
like she talks about it like
very candidly.
Yeah,
She
she
like
doesn't-
she's recapping a story.
Right.
exactly
Yeah.
like
Right.
she's not like
She's
all
probably
emotional about
like
it.
disassociated from
Yeah,
it. But,
exactly.
Oh my god.
Well, yeah, because at one point in time she says, she's like, I could see like a look in his eyes where it's like he was sorry he was doing
Yeah.
it, but it's not like that was gonna stop him.
Right.
Yeah.
which
He was going to do whatever he wanted to do.
And then they
So
cut
creepy.
to a bunch of different news
Yeah.
stories about a bunch of child abductions
Yeah.
that are going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's weird is that the kids all give essentially the same description, and it matches up to the composite that Gil has for this murdering.
but
this
they're
murderer
handled
guy.
by two different.
Two totally different squads.
Right.
And this is kind of where you start seeing what you were touching on earlier, where you have all these different departments and not even different, but like Gil is in the sheriff's
Homicide.
department.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you've got LAPD, and then you've got LA County, and then
Well,
you've
and
got
then there's like the sex crimes unit,
Yep.
which is what was handling the kids. Yeah.
and
But
so-
there's no conversations happening between them to like tie them.
well, no, so he thinks that there's a connection, like so.
yeah,
Gil,
he
like,
thinks there's a connection, but
and nobody's listening to him.
nobody's saying anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So and it's I think it was April 10th. There is all the local departments get together to try to like do this information sharing about just different cases that are going on and all that kind of stuff. And this is where Gil says, "Look, he's like, I really think these two cases are related. The child abductions and this murderer we're chasing are the same guy." And he's basically laughed out of the room. And the reason why he's laughed out of the room is because they just said, "Look, that just doesn't happen. You don't have somebody who breaks into houses and violently slaughters adults, and then also abducts kids but lets them go. Like
Right.
that just doesn't happen."
Yeah, this type of
Right.
person has never been documented.
And that's there's like we
Yeah, he's
Right.
like a whole new
Right.
type of serial
Monster,
killer.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like the only person that's on his side is this Linda lady, who's she's one of the crime scene techs, and she's like, "Dude, you might go run with it.
Yeah.
like, yeah, go."
Yeah. So then we have May 14th. Linda Arthur. Why did I write that? Linda
no.
Arthur crime scene tech, May 14th.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah, but what happens on May 14th with Linda Arm?
So we're not. So they caught a guy.
This well.
So before we get to May 14th, which is the next murders, as they're out
I left
trolling the
this part out,
streets,
yeah.
they noticed there was a guy who. Dark clothes, members only
Yes.
jacket, light skinned Latino, yada yada.
Following
and he's
women
basically
around.
circling a block,
Yeah.
following women.
They said any woman.
Oh yeah.
Any woman. It was like not like this specific group of
Oh
girls.
yeah. It wasn't
it was like every
there was no
woman.
type.
He was just,
And so they arrest him. They go back to his house. They get a search warrant to go back to his house, and it's full of pictures of women with their eyes cut out, women's panties with the crotches
Slits,
cut out.
yeah.
So he puts him in a photo array, a 6 photo array, and goes back to Hernandez, and she's like, "Yeah, that could be him." And so with that, they kind of, they start to book him. They get deeper into him. But then they get him into a lineup and nobody can identify him. And the one quote that I really loved was just, "Dude, he's a freak. He's just not your freak."
He's
Right.
not your freak. Exactly. I loved that part because I was just like,
So true.
ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. He's
There's a
absolutely.
lot of those.
He's absolutely a freak. But yeah, so May 14th. And I love how they always do the count up too. So it's May 14th, and this is day 58,
Yeah.
of how this is going.
The spree.
And that's when the next murders happen. And he had raped the wife. He had shot the husband, but the husband survived long enough to call 911. And so that's how the cops got there before she was killed. So he escaped, and they said it was the first time he used thumb cuffs.
Yep.
Which are a really weird kind of device if you've never seen them. They're like handcuffs, but they're for your thumbs, obviously.
I had to Google it.
She was like bleeding profusely from like trying to get her hands out. But it was William Doy and Lillian Doy, and they were in their 60s.
And so again,
it
all over the
just-
map,
yeah, it's
you've
just-
got
that's the thing
victims
is, like, it
in their
just boggles
30s
my
and their
mind. You
40s
have
and their
senior-
50s and their
you
60s and
senior
their
citizens, and you have
And then you have like a 6-year-old,
couples,
and then you have couples.
two
Exactly. You have-
sisters living together. And
Oh
then you have a
yes,
child, and
exactly.
then
You have like it's so sporadic, and like if we're not even thinking about like the people that we don't know about. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like because that's obviously something that's
And I would love to know, which is something this documentary didn't get into, but if he had any like premeditation, like did he scout the houses?
I also was wondering that. Like, they didn't really talk about whether or not they thought that he was like following these people and then deciding on them.
Totally random.
Exactly. Or if he just like went and like if a door was unlocked or a window was unlocked, he just chose that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they didn't really go into any kind of detail on what. I know that there wasn't like a specific thing that he was looking for.
Right.
But there was literally nothing that tied them together. Like, not even like all of them just had unlocked doors.
Just
or just how did he find his victim?
Whatever wackadoo voice was in his head.
Yeah.
And I guess, and honestly, that's a really good point. That as much as this documentary is about him, really doesn't.
No.
Richard Ramirez himself is not a starring role in this documentary.
No. Which is kind of refreshing.
That's actually really nice. Yeah, I was gonna say that too. That's actually really nice because they almost like
more about the
glorify.
Police work. Yeah,
you know, it's about the police work exactly, and the people that got him finally.
But yeah, so Gil gets this call about a child abduction, another child abduction that had happened nearby, and where the girl was taken to a construction site. And at that construction site, they had just poured concrete, and so there's this perfect shoe print impression that they now have, and so so Gil calls back to his chief, and he's like, "Hey, this is what we've been looking for. This is the proof that." The shoe print that we found at the murder scenes and the shoe print at this child abduction match, it's the same thing. His chief goes, well, dude, I've got the LAPD guys here that are investigating that case, and you're looking for a guy with a size 11, 12 shoe. They say that that's a size 10 shoe. And Gil's like, put him on the phone.
Yeah, I want to talk to him right now.
Yeah, and so he's like, how the hell did you come up with a size 10 shoe? Because like I'm looking at it, and again, San Dimas Lumber Company, and he's like, and it's about 12 inches long, so like that's a size 11 or size 12 shoe. And the LAPD cop was just like, oh well, I wear a size 10, and I took my
wingtips.
And I took which go longer. And so and it covered it up, so I just assumed it was we figured it was a size 10, but yeah, you're right, we suck. Sorry, you're right.
We made a mistake. We'll go ahead and fix that now. Okay, guy.
Yeah. So now there's a link.
Good
like
police work.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
Great. You just put your foot next to it.
I made it. I drew a hand turkey next to it, and my hand is about 7 inches tall. But no. So now there's an established link, and so everybody that was like kind of laughing at Gil and telling him that he was a bag of douche, now has to go. Oh shit, you were right. Sorry. And this is where Gil and Salerno become partners.
Yeah.
Apparently Salerno's drinking one night, and Gil's there, and he was like, hey, you want to? He's like, you don't have a partner, I don't have a partner. We should be partners. And then it's funny. Gil says, the next day, Salerno comes by, and he was like, hey, I was kind of drinking a lot last night. I was in my cups last night, which drinking.
Right.
I got all that old timey cop slang, see? And I was in my cups, see? And he was like, and he's like, oh great, like he doesn't really want to be, he doesn't really want to be my partner. And he's like, well, I'm not in my cups today, and now I'm asking again. You want to be my partner? And he was like, shit,
yeah, sure do.
Yeah.
But then it was funny because now you get to they go back to that reporter guy again, who's like, they could not have been any more opposite. Like it was like a total odd couple thing where you have Salerno, who's very dour, very serious, very like it's mentioned a couple times, like you'd be hell to play poker against him because he gives up nothing.
Yes.
And Gil is always smiling. He's always like kind of got a bounce in his step, and he's always eating these sunflower
I'm sure that
seeds.
Changed during all this.
Oh, you could see it on his face.
Yeah.
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 So
also that.
So then we have June 28th. Patty Higgins.
Yep.
32. Cut her throat. Stabbed her in the slash of her throat over and over again.
Yes, it was like the worst overkill that they'd seen.
Yeah.
Like cutting her throat wasn't going to kill her enough. He had to then stab her repeatedly in the wound, which is weird.
And then we just have like a heat up.
The amount of hate
like
that would take.
Like he's on a spree. July 2nd, Mary Cannon, 75, throat slit. July 5th.
75.
July 5th, Whitney Bennett, 16 years old, beaten with a tire iron.
And this is where they find out why they've never found fingerprints. That July 5th attack, because they find a smudge on the outside windowsill that's got blood on it, and it's got fibers and fabric, and they're like, oh, well, he's wearing gardener's gloves.
Gardener's gloves in particular, which is crazy.
So Whitney survives this attack. She has 42 inches of lacerations and skull fractures. They do, however, find a shoe print in blood left on the comforter, and the shoe print matches.
It's almost
what
like okay, so at one point, we start seeing like the pentagram being like his like little symbol, but really to me, I'm like, the shoe is the fucking symbol of like his attacks because he leaves it everywhere, whether he wants to or not.
Right.
He
it's
leaves
like
it
he's
everywhere.
not even aware of it.
Right, I don't think that he really even was, but it's just interesting how like that that symbol in particular like became like the thing that was really keeping him connected, and the fact that people didn't know that was helping to make sure that they could connect each thing. Right.
Yeah. So now, as this episode ends, they know they have a serial killer. Yes. Obviously. I mean,
very clearly.
Now it's clear to everyone.
Is it in this episode that they talk about the possible drug overdose that they find?
No, that's the
next
start of the second episode.
Okay, we'll talk about that because I have something to say about that. Okay, continue.
Okay, so episode 2. I mean, what is the possible drug overdose? Why do I not remember that?
No, so that's actually part of the Hillside Strangler case. So episode 2
they go back
takes a step back in time and gives you, so like episode 1 was all about Gil and basically how he got to where he was and all that kind of stuff. Episode 2 gives you the Salerno backstory, and not as deeply as we did with Gil. Like it doesn't get into his childhood or any of that crap.
They don't talk about all that.
But
stuff.
they talk about like basically the case that made his career,
right? Which was
before
the Hillside Killer.
Night Stalker happened, because who gets 2 of these cases?
Right.
He said it's a case of a lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's like you're only going to get one,
Yeah.
If you even get one.
Yep.
And you have
but
two
if you do, and now
back-to-back.
you have 2 back to back, literally back to back. So yeah, but that's.
But yeah, so it starts with the coverage of the Hillside Strangler case, and it's because it's hey, that's the first case he got called out on.
Right. Okay. So yeah, they say that he gets a phone call and they say, oh, we have a possible overdose, and then he gets there and they're like, oh, she has like stab wounds and lacerations. It's like, what part of this did you think was a drug overdose and not somebody
and she's got
fucking murdered?
She's got ligature marks on her wrists and ankles, and
because the Hillside Strangler, didn't he inject his victims he injected them with like Windex and stuff.
Like chemicals and stuff like that. But
so maybe upon like first seeing,
but it's like the thing is that they're like, oh yeah, she's got all these ligature marks and all this stuff, and I was like, when he starts, literally they're like, okay, possible drug overdose. I get there and she's got all these stab wounds and stuff, and I'm like,
right.
At no point would I have been
glazed
over
over that.
Like,
oh, she's an overdosed bondage freak. I don't know. I don't judge what people do.
She overdosed on being stabbed.
Clearly happened after she overdosed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no.
But so and this is where they get it, and then they then they flash back to current date, and they're talking about how like the struggle here, like, so okay, they know there's a connection because of this shoe print. They know that these things are connected. But there's no other pattern of behavior. There's no signature. There's no profile on the
only
victim.
going after blondes, or only going after young women, or older women, or just raping, or they even talk about just the ways that he kills people was like not.
Sometimes it's this.
Yeah, it was like
that.
sometimes it was stabbing, sometimes it was shooting, sometimes it was like choking with your actual hand, sometimes it was choking
whatever
with,
was
like,
in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was so wild, like how much he just kind of bounced around.
So I think that some of that to me speaks to. I don't think, my personal opinion. I don't see any of this being premeditated. Like I truly think.
He's winging it.
That the vast majority, like, because and especially when you do see some of him in the 4th episode, and just exactly how wackadoo he is.
I feel like he's premeditating the fact that he's going to murder.
Yes.
And I feel like he's premeditating the fact that he's like, oh, okay, this person, maybe even, like I'll do this. But he gets in there and then is just like, let's see what happens.
Well, didn't they say in the 4th episode, too, that he was pretty heavily into drugs?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yes.
He was on cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with his psyche and where he was at mentally. And he was obviously disturbed.
Yeah.
But just like generally speaking, it's like he was kind of just like, I'm going to get in there. And like we talked about just a few minutes ago, where it's like he wasn't scared. He wasn't like worried about coming in. It didn't matter if he was comfortable. It didn't matter if there was multiple people or if there was only one person or if it was a male or a female. None of that mattered. He would just go into this place and be like, all right, let's see what happens.
Well, and also we'll talk about in the 4th episode, but like they said that he had been like he was a student of like Ted Bundy and the Hillside Strength.
He took a lot of.
So maybe, I mean, this is giving him a lot of credit, but maybe he was like, I'm not gonna discern, like, or like I don't care. I'm going to be like the unorganized.
And I don't think that that's actually giving him a lot of credit because I feel like just if you were like that disturbed or like whatever, if you were just like, oh, I'm going to take a little bit from everybody, and you did take a little bit from everybody, then you would have differences of the types of people that you end up going after.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I'm going to pay, I'm going to do something that the Hillside Killer would have done, or I'm going to do something that Ted Bundy would have done.
Right.
And doing that, it's like you would go after the types of people that they would have gone after. Almost like he was just kind of like,
yeah, but he was so sporadic. Like he
well,
would
no,
have.
I know,
he would have
but I'm
been
just saying,
Ted
like,
Bundy,
but if he was just reading
Ed
into
Gein.
these people, well, no, not that he was like trying to like follow them like specifically, but that he was just like, I'm reading into these people, like, oh yeah, and then goes off on like a tangent on what he wants to do. I don't know. I'm
or
just
what
like
I was
throwing
thinking
something
is like
out there.
maybe that would like him being like, oh, they're gonna see a pattern.
Yeah, like he was smart enough to be like, I don't want them to catch me, so I need to like
want this to
mix
look
it
random.
up a little.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
no, I see what you're saying.
But
that
that's
makes
giving
sense.
him a lot of credit.
That is giving him a lot of credit.
When
yeah,
he
you're
was
right. Yeah, you're
clearly
right.
on drugs.
He was just actually just fucked up the entire time. He was just like dropping acid and killing people.
And we laugh.
Yeah.
So July 6th.
This is a comedy podcast.
Lorraine and John Rodriguez. He's sleeping in the bedroom. She's on the couch. She hears a noise from the bedroom, realizes it's not her husband. He worked at the jail. He was
a cop.
Yeah, he was a cop.
Yeah.
He said, I am the police.
Yeah.
Went and got his gun and started walking around the house. She finds...
Oh, and it's so funny. Like, I love how they have the little interaction where she's like, John, get up, I hear something.
Yeah.
And he's like,
as a husband,
shut up.
like...
I got to go to work in a couple hours. I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah.
She's like, you wouldn't leave me alone, so fine.
Well,
I got my
even
gun.
she was like, I thought he's going to wake up the kids.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like the two of them are
yeah.
like,
Yeah, she's like,
this
shut up back there.
Both of them are like, this motherfucker's
Yeah.
going to fuck me up. And then they're like, oh, just kidding. We came together because we were almost murdered. Like,
so he's walking around the house, and she finds a window that was it had actually been painted shut.
And they said they had never been able to open it. Yeah.
She finds this window all the way up.
And that's the loud bang she'd heard, was that getting
right
opened up.
underneath that windowsill. I guess it had like rained a lot, and as he was like pushing down in the soil to like open this window, in the meantime he leaves a perfect footprint.
his signature.
So the other cops show up and basically like say, you're lucky as shit.
Well, and you got to love, like, apparently some crime scene tech had the presence of mind, or somebody, it might have even been his wife, that had put a box over the shoe print.
Yeah.
So
to make sure to preserve it.
Yeah, so that like as anybody was running around, they it wouldn't get screwed up. And Gil's like, yeah, you're lucky to be alive.
Right. Yeah.
When I saw that part where they were just kind of like, oh, yeah, like he got this window open and it was sealed shut. First of all, I don't know if you've ever had a painted shut window before, but I most definitely have. And that shit is impossible.
Yeah.
I've had multiple people come over my house to try and get this window open, and they cannot.
He was on that super strength drug strength.
I know exactly what I was about to say, because it's
He's
like
on the PCP.
If you look at this guy, he's no Andre the Giant.
He's on the
literally like Skeletor, like
Oh, yeah.
he's on the pot. he's like Skeletor.
Yeah.
Literally like sunken in,
Yeah,
you know, like
he is Skeletor.
he's
Ugh.
very, very thin. And you think you have that idea
He's
that
a wiry one.
if someone is like thin and
Wiry
just,
young
you know,
lad.
like scraggly or whatever, that they are not very strong. And this guy had such a will to get in there that he just went boop.
PCP.
But also, exactly.
and the PCB.
But that PCP will really do that to you sometimes. So, you know, you just become the Hulk and you don't even know it.
Hulk smash window.
You have no idea.
Dude. So this is where they figure out it's Avia's.
So and here I love that like
This is when they figure out the video.
He
the
wears
boring-
dad shoes.
the boring.
He's wearing
for
the fucking dad shoes.
For those of you who don't know, the Avias are the New Balance of the 80s.
They're like what you cut your lawn in.
They
Like,
absolutely were.
They are fucking
And
dad
that's that, I love that. Like this is like the boring. Like so, you've got the cops that are out, chasing the guy down and going to crime scenes, and then you've got like this crime scene tech who.
I had to go to the
flies
Avia
out
warehouse.
flies out to Portland, Oregon to meet with the inventor of Avia shoes. Hooray! And they find out, so yeah, they're Avias. And yep, it's an aerobic shoe. It's not a gym shoe. It's not a basketball shoe.
Right.
Yep, it's an 11.5. So they were right. It's somewhere, but it's either an 11 or 12. Well, it's both. It's 11.5. What's cool though is that so this guy is the owner of the company, and so he gives them all of the spreadsheets about like all the sales data, all the everything. And what's crazy, because they were like, okay, look, we know just based on everything, like the guy's always described in all black, so they've got to be black. And so a black 11.5 aerobic shoe, the specific shoe, there were only six of them made. 5 of them went to Arizona, and only 1 went to L.A. So they're like, okay, this guy bought the
He has
one
very
pair.
rare Avias.
They're artisanal Avias. They're collector's items. And clearly he did not leave them in the box.
No.
Well,
But so what sucks though is like
is
that's
he
his-
shops at Goodwill?
well and
I mean,
well yeah. Well, but
that's
he
one
no
thing.
he had to have
His AC/DC
he had to have bought like
Members
Avia.
only
they were
jacket.
brand new shoes. Like they like that's the thing. Avias had just
Right, they
hit the
just-
market.
Oh,
Yeah, they said that they had sent 5
yeah.
elsewhere.
Arizona,
and
yeah.
then Arizona, and then 1
Yep.
to California. So they were like, but they couldn't actually trace them down. Based
So yeah,
off
that's
of
they
that.
couldn't get any further with the data. Like
That's
they
Which
didn't
is
know.
wild.
crazy because I'm just like, of course you can tell me how many were out. You can tell me where they went. You
Well,
can
and
tell
they
me
don't-
like
Right.
what
Well,
place
so it's
they
the
went
thing.
to, but nobody can tell me.
Well,
where
they
it was
found the
bought.
store where it was bought, but
Right.
there's no,
Right, no
security
credit
footage. It's not.
card.
This is
Yeah.
this is 85.
It's
People
eight-
pay
yeah,
cash for
exactly.
everything. It's not no. So it's but that's as far as that went. Other than that's so now they know that's the shoe they're looking for, and that's they
Right.
made this. So if we find a guy, and the guy has the shoes on, then we know he's the guy.
Yeah.
Right. So keep a lookout for anybody wearing black of.
Right. And then so they go back to
I'm gonna buy some now.
they start looking. They're gonna
Bring their
they
stock
even,
back
they even
up.
make
Do they
Avias?
make 'em?
I
I
was
don't
gonna-
know.
I don't know. Get Reddit on it. They'll
Okay,
bring the
listen,
stock back up.
eBay? Yeah, get Reddit on it. They'll bring the stock back up for sure.
So they start looking through because like there's
A
got to be
bankrupt
more
company.
out there. Yeah, there's got to be more out there, and so they find a case from back in May 29th. Because again, remember we're in July now. So back in May 29th matches the patterns of behavior, and this is just how sick of a jaguar do you have to be to rape and beat up 2 80-year-old sisters living together?
And one was an invalid.
Like invalid.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like
No.
literally unable to like
She
speak or
was
move
the one
or
that
anything. She
survived.
survived.
So it was Mabel Bell. She was 83, sexually assaulted and beaten with a hammer, and then Florence Lane, beaten and barely alive. They found an alarm clock with a partial shoe print, and it matched the Avia. He hung out in the house. When he was done, he had a snack. And this is the first time he draws a pentagram on one of the victim's legs, and he also draws a pentagram on the wall.
The wall. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the way, so the alarm clock, the way it got the footprint on it is that they think that he stepped on it and then pulled the cord
Yeah, because
he was using that to strangle one of the victims.
that's what he used to bind him. Yep.
So he's a huge piece of shit. If
Left
you didn't
another
already know
footprint.
that. Yeah. So then
Now we have time number 1. They coulda, shoulda, woulda had him.
yeah, so the kidnap victim across town.
Well, attempted because she fought him off.
She gets away. Yeah. So the suspect is driving a Toyota. Gets pulled over.
He's got no license.
Yeah, has no license. The cop's like, "Oh, hey, just wait here. I'm gonna go."
Going over 100 miles an hour.
Going back to going. God damn it, Dave. So the cop pulls him over.
It's a motorcycle cop that pulls him over.
Tells him to stay right there. I need to go. Whatever. Get whatever.
He went back to go get his ticket book
to write a ticket. Comes back. He had drawn a pentagram.
He overheard the radio saying
on the motorcycle cop
the name, like the type of car, make and model of the car, and everything.
And his description.
He's got him exactly.
Yeah.
And so he comes back over, and he had drawn a pentagram on the hood of the car, and then had run off.
Yeah.
And how the fuck he got away? But I guess also 1985. So.
Yeah, so LAPD impounds the car and says that they will take care of the prints. They're going to process the car and basically just like stonewall.
Cue the Morgan Freeman voice.
God.
But they knew they would never process that car.
They were never seen again.
Right. The car was
never seen again.
Yeah.
And this is where they really do the whole deep dive on, look, this is why we're screwed, because there's so many different jurisdictions here, and everybody has their hands in stuff, and everybody wants their piece of it, and everybody wants to control things, and it's nuts.
Yeah. Now, okay, and I actually was planning on looking this up, and then I completely forgot about it, but is this part of the reason why they have like a database now that is shared with...
VICAP, yep.
This is part of that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they sort of touched on that, but then they were like, just kidding. We're not actually going to touch on that at all. Like they do kind of say we made our information available and everyone else made their information available.
Yes.
But
it's where they started it. Yeah.
They didn't now if anything is done, then it's shared with everybody.
Yes.
And if anything comes up that's similar, then it's like, you'll get the information about it. So, okay, it is like part of the reason why they started doing that. Okay, cool. Got it.
So the next thing I have is July 7th. All right. So Gil gets a call from Linda Arthur, who's the...
Well, so first off...
Oh, Jesus.
Jeez.
Gil wakes up in a cold sweat. Convinced that there's somebody in his house.
Somebody in his house.
And so he gets up, gets his gun, sweeps the entire house, and then is like, okay, well, I'm awake. Screw it. Turns on the TV. Apparently, there's a John Wayne movie on.
And I was like, how did he even remember that? But I guess I would maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and then he does, and then he gets the phone call from Linda, the crime scene tech.
Yep. So her neighbor was raped, and she thinks it's related. So it was Sophie Dickman.
So
Dickman.
And here's the weird thing. Like, do you wonder, like right now, there's no nobody just gets normal sick now. Now everything is COVID.
Yeah.
So were there normal crimes happening in LA, or was everything Night Stalker?
Right.
Yeah. I also wondered that too.
Right. So Linda was like.
She had friends over.
She was friends over.
They were
outside.
They were drinking. They were in the hot tub.
And then one of her friends hears.
They went to bed.
They went to bed.
Okay. They went to bed. They were like, okay, we're going in for the night. And then so finally they go to sleep. And then one of the she goes into her room and she's like, your neighbor is calling for you.
Oh yeah. And she's like, no. She's like, I've got my phone right here. My phone's not. She's like, no. She's yelling for you.
I know. And when they said that, I was like, oh my God. I am never going to sleep with my TV on ever again because, no
one will be able to hear me.
Okay, I will say this is a little segue really quick. I'm sorry about that, but there was one time that I had roommates, and my house is very small, and you can hear everything that happens inside of our rooms. And there was one night where I was sleeping, and I must have dreamt that I had my window open, and I must have dreamt that somebody said, "Hey." Or something like that, and I heard somebody walking in my backyard, and I woke up, and I was just sitting there for a second, and dead ass silent because I was like, oh my God, there's somebody in my backyard, and I heard something walking through my backyard, and so I freaked out and I screamed for my room. I mean, at the top of my lungs. And Lindsay knows, she's been in my house. If I'm like in my room and I cough, like, you can hear it as if I was sitting next to you in my living room. You know what I mean? So I was like, Russell! And I was freaking out. And I sat there for a minute and nobody came into my room. I actually ran out and like locked all my doors and nobody came. And then the next morning, like my other roommate, Mike, was like, I heard you scream for Russell, but he didn't get up, so I didn't get up either. And I was like,
dude.
okay, guys, noted.
Yeah.
Because if I was sitting in there like
Nice
being
to know if I'm
killed
getting
or,
murdered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just gonna like not do anything. But
I don't know. I thought
that
maybe you
is-
and Russell were hooking up. I don't know.
I've had that type of shit where I'm just like, you know, you like wake up, even if it's like in a dream, you know, you wake up and you're like, oh, what was that? Or, you know, freaking out. And I literally called for my roommates and they didn't come up. What the fuck, Russell?
That's amazing.
Home invasions are the most
Scary
terrifying
shit?
because it's
Yes.
the place where you feel the most safe, the most
Yes.
vulnerable. You're the most vulnerable. So yeah. So Sophie Dickman, she had been tied to her bed,
Handcuffed.
handcuffed to her bed, and was sexually assaulted,
Oh, and robbed.
and robbed, but alive.
Because he takes stuff too.
But what had happened? Wait, did this happen after or before the night Joyce?
So no, so this is where like they figured out like he got into the house by ripping the cat door. Like she had a cat,
Yeah.
and she had
the
a cat door. So he
door.
ripped the entire frame and everything of the cat door out, so it was a big enough entryway for him to get in, and that's how he got into
So
the house.
freaky.
And how, first of all, how do you get in through a cat door?
Well, I mean the frame is bigger.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so that's what I said.
Okay.
He ripped the entire setup out of the.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Oh.
So it's like the entire
I
thing, and there's a
remember.
door in
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So Joyce Nelson happened before Sophie Dickman. So what
Yes.
they found out was Joyce Nelson, who's like a 61-year-old grandma.
Yep.
She had been beaten to death. He stomped the side of her head and left a footprint.
So it was they didn't know it yet.
footprint.
Like they did because this was it
God,
was the
this
same
guy.
day,
Yeah.
just earlier.
Yeah. So
They just didn't catch that case until
Yeah. So what had happened was she fought, and she was not raped. So what they think is that he wasn't satisfied, like after her murder, and
Okay,
so
this is
that's
the one
why
where
he
goes
went and
afterwards.
found
Yes.
Sophie Dickman.
Yes. So he didn't get to be satisfied from that. He just
Right.
murdered and then went
Well,
to
because
went
she
to go
fought
and train.
him.
Mhm.
And then Sophie Dickman happened.
Dickman.
So media really gets involved after the Nelson murder, and they set up a large task force, which was done for what was done for the Hillside Strangler.
Well, yeah, because now they've got 5 cases in 10 days, and whenever he hits,
Which is
now he's doing
crazy.
multiples.
Yeah, he's
Like
on a
he's
spree.
escalating. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
escalating.
And it's like, you know, over the course
He's
of a
like,
long time,
oh my God.
it's, you know,
he's like when Ted Bundy does the beach.
yes.
And he goes and gets back 3 different girls. Oh my God, that sends chills on my.
That
That is like
that's the type of shit that I
fucking
think of too,
creepiest
where it's
shit.
just like this is, you know, like it seems like
He's
it's
brazen.
kind of like
He doesn't.
yeah, it
it's-
seems like he's kind of like on, you know, like there's like this such a long period. It's like 10 months or whatever the fuck it might be, but it's like
He's
in
not.
10 months. This is a lot of stuff happening, and this is just what you
Days.
know
Yeah, right.
is happening.
Right.
Well, yeah,
That's
so I
not
mean-
including things that you don't know he's
Right.
So
doing.
when you think about it, so May 17th, or excuse me, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day was the first one, and you're at July 7th.
Yeah.
So you're not even 4 months in yet.
Right.
And again, like so they set up a task force. They've got like 200 cops. They set up a tip line. And honestly, God, yeah. And the one thing, the worst part about the whole grandmother thing is that they found her. The family found her, and that's got to be
Yeah,
horrifying
that's
in and of
terrible.
itself. But they found her when they went to go pick her up
Yeah.
because it was their daughter's birthday. It was her granddaughter's
yeah, for
birthday.
her, like it was like her
14th
14th
birthday. Yep.
birthday. Yeah.
So sad.
But yeah, and so that's what they get into. Like they have to go public now
Right.
because
The
other than
families
this
are
shoe,
seeing it,
Well, I mean, but other than the shoe, they got nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there's no, because again, and there's no pattern, there's no type,
Right.
there's no profile of
And
the
during
victims.
this time,
there's
they
no
don't
anything.
really have like a lot of DNA testing and stuff like
Oh, God,
available.
no.
So it's like, even with
Well,
him
but
like eating at their house
Yeah.
or hanging out and just like whatever.
Or
There's
all
not
the sexual assaults.
all the sexual assaults. Like there's nothing that they can
Right.
be like, oh yeah, we have this definitive DNA to like go ahead and use.
So the next thing I have is about Laurel Erickson.
Yep.
Who I want to just like punch in the face.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I'm sure a lot of people did.
Laurel
Same.
Erickson
Mostly cops.
is
Fuck you, Laurel Erickson.
news reporter for Channel 4 News.
Well, but I mean, I guess in her defense, she's just doing her job.
I mean, okay, but there's lives hanging in the
Right.
balance that you do not need to share this information.
It feels like that should be illegal for you to share information if
Right.
the police say, "Hey, listen, this is really valuable to us,"
So
and being able to like
what
get this.
she does is she calls Salerno and she asks about the shoe print. And he's like, what are you talking about? And like tries to play dumb.
Oh yeah, because she's like, I know that it's an Avia shoe, it's this, and it's the footprint that's at all the crime scenes and the child.
So Salerno like calls the police chief and is like, somehow she has this fucking information, and she's blackmailing me like for a story right
Straight
now.
up.
Yeah.
And the police chief is like, all right, well, we're gonna give her a story. Like, we're not releasing this information about the shoe print. We'll give her like an exclusive interview with you.
Oh yeah, that
and
was
Gil.
that was like, oh yeah, you guys have to
Stuff
go
that you're
give her an
willing to
exclusive.
say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Oh, and I love Stella. He's like, yeah. He's like, no, we still we don't know where she got
Right.
that info. He's like, it had to be a cop. He's like, I'd love to know who it was.
Right,
He's like,
yeah.
I'd love to thank him personally.
Right.
Oh yeah.
beat the shit out of him.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's things are heating up. It's in the media. The media is very attached.
Hey, you know what else was heating up? The car that they had found.
Oh yeah.
That they said they were going to print. They not only did they
that was a really good segue.
not only did they never print it, they left it stored outside
in the sun.
In
in
the
the sun
sun.
in the 107-degree days.
Yeah.
So all the fingerprints are just
So all the tissue's gone.
So
Fingerprint
Scorched.
oil has gone.
Yeah.
It's rained. It's baked.
Yeah.
It's
Jesus.
So there's
Okay.
no.
That
There's
was a really
no,
good segue, though.
yeah, it was.
I'm a professional. There's no, but so like there's nothing. They're like, and because they finally lost their shit. They were like, dude, we've been asking LAPD about this car all this time and nothing. And so finally
they get nothing.
Yeah, so
from
finally they had the chief go light them up, and the chief, and then finally, and that's when they finally find out, yeah, it's been sitting outside, we're screwed. But so they decide to go through the car anyway, and they find a little like card case that has a dentist.
What?
Over in
The
Chinatown?
irony of this guy
Snaggletooth.
going to
I know.
dentist.
Who'd have thought?
He's ever even been to a dentist?
Well, so
okay.
that's-
is that how he saved his
and
top teeth?
this is where. Like so, and this is where I think my opinion of him differs from yours. Like, so you guys keep using phrases like brazen and calculated and that kind of stuff. I don't think that's him. I think he would go through manic obsessive periods where,
Sure.
and it almost became like, it's like, and I'm not. Hey, if you're killing people, you're a dick.
Sure.
But almost that it was a compulsion that would, especially when they get into the whole satanic thing and all that kind of stuff, and Satan speaking to him, like that's schizophrenia.
Which,
That's
by the
mania.
way,
That's
is not
See,
what the
I don't-
Satanic Temple
Right, and
believes
I
in
don't-
at all. I just
No.
want to say that really
And
quick because
also,
that's not
No.
I
at
don't
all.
think it was. I think the Satan thing was just bullshit.
It is bullshit.
No, like I don't think he
I don't
was
thi-
schizophrenic.
I don't think he was satanic. I think that was him thinking that's what being satanic was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, huge difference.
I want to make a very, very clear because I have a lot of friends who are part of the Satanic Temple,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to make that very clear that this is not what they actually believe in or what they actually
Right.
preach in any way, shape, or form. So please, everyone know that.
Well, no,
okay?
and I think that.
Well,
what,
in this case is what started the
Right.
satanic panic.
panic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So yeah, that's a dentist card, and so again, July 8th. This is July. I want to make sure. July.
this is
8th.
July 9th.
Oh, is it 9th? Okay.
July 9th.
Okay,
It's
July
not
9th.
July 8th.
I
It's
mean,
July
So July 9th, and this car has been sitting there for weeks.
weeks.
So what I love is they
Weeks.
go to this dentist office and they find, obviously he used a fake name, but they get the x-rays and they know that he's going to be back at the dentist because he has an impacted tooth. no shit, his teeth
And they had
are
just he
horrendous.
had just been there.
Right.
Like, so again,
Literally
July
like 2
9th,
days before.
Right.
July 3rd, he was there.
Right.
So if
Had
the,
they
if the
processed the
jackwads had
car,
processed the car,
right.
yeah.
Right. So they end up staking out the dentist's office. And that,
So they put 2 detectives in the lobby. Yep.
yeah, and that is where episode 2 ends.
Damn, that was just episode 2.
Only 2 more.
only 2 more, guys.
I mean, episode 4 we can fly through.
Well, yeah, that's pretty quick. Yeah.
All right. So episode 3 starts with naming the victims, and you see a whole lot of names that I was like, wait, we didn't see that one,
Yes,
and we didn't see that
exactly.
one. So there's a ton of victims. I
Well,
mean,
so yeah, because it was both, because that list of names was both the
It was attacked and murdered.
attacks and the murder and the
Yeah.
abduction and the children.
And abduction.
And
Yes.
so, and that's, I'll wait for that.
okay. So
Well, actually, no, because it's been talked. Because it's been talked about a couple times now. So, like, that's the one thing. Like, I thought I was pretty familiar with this case.
Oh,
I was not familiar with the child molestation
no,
side
neither
of
was
things.
I.
Yeah, neither was I.
And,
yeah, I didn't even know
and you
about
find
that.
out
'Cause
why
he was never charged
in
for
episode
it.
4.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That's like really fucked up. We'll get to that,
I
but that's
don't-
really fucked up to me.
Okay, we'll talk about
But
it.
I understand the rationale for doing
Yeah, so do I. Okay, so July 15th, somebody...
We start off with a pissed off Gil.
Yeah. So somebody's like, you're wasting resources having these 2 cops sit in this dentist's office. So here we'll put a panic.
He's never going to come back.
Panic
Panic
button,
alarm, a
yeah.
panic button in here. So if he does come back, they can just press the button and we'll show up if he does come back. So July 15th, Richard Ramirez comes in the dentist's office. They hit the panic button. Panic button doesn't work.
It doesn't fucking
It
work.
malfunctions. And the dentist calls Gil later and is like, why didn't you guys show up? And he was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, he was in
I
here.
straight
We
up
pressed
had him
the
here.
button.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, if like by the end of his appointment, they weren't there, like I would be on the, I mean.
You know what, dude? I think I need
more.
to add a little more nitrous. Like, you might be getting a
Yeah,
little sleepy.
You're getting
Like,
sleepy.
Yeah, do more. Call them
Right.
yourself.
Right,
Be like, hey,
dentists,
hold on,
fucking
we
keep
gotta
him
do
here.
something.
Like dentist could have been a hero.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They could have just been straight up like, hold on,
Right.
the dentist will be with you in just a
Right,
moment,
right.
and then like give him
Right.
a hot minute.
I mean, we saw his teeth. You
I'd
could
have
have
to
said.
wait.
You could have said he has a million other things wrong with his fucking teeth.
right?
Like,
You could have just been like, hold
Right.
on, we want to
Well,
do
hold
like
on, wait,
a couple
I
more,
see.
you know, something.
We're
let me
gonna do
go
a
back-
cleaning, and
I'm
this
go
is gonna
back
take a
and
minute.
Floss for you again. And we're just
Between
gonna wait. a little
how do you
while.
floss between teeth that are literally like an inch and a half apart from each other?
I mean,
Hold
water
on,
pick.
let me just
A
like
water pick.
scan your gums.
Yeah, let me get this rope.
I mean, he deserves that.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
All right. So yeah, another huge like letdown, huge gaffe.
And
They
keep in
could have
mind,
had him.
The 15th.
Right.
They had just put the
Right.
detectives there
Right.
on the 9th.
It's just
So
annoying.
in 6 days,
And it's
in
annoying-
6
like,
days, somebody got
Who
pissed.
was the asshole that was like, yeah, we need to pull these
Yeah.
2 cops?
It's
and
annoying that
in
they
here."
decided to do like a panic button because I've actually worked at a place where we had 2 panic buttons and I've had to use them before and they also did not work.
Oh, and that's what they said. They said, oh, it wasn't wired up properly.
like a false
Yeah,
sense
like,
of
well,
security.
it's like but then I would randomly have, like, because I was managing this place, and I would randomly have the police show up, like, randomly, and they would just be like, oh, like, somebody pushed the panic button, and I'm like,
No.
maybe it's, like, underneath something, so I was, like, maybe on accident, like, swiveling their chair or
Right.
something, but then when I actually have somebody, like, in here, you
Right.
guys, like, have not shown up, and I'm, like, pressing it, like... Hello,
Panic.
you know,
Like, I'm sending you Morse code via the button, yeah.
panicking. Come on, you know. But then like somebody accidentally presses it, and you guys are like on your way today. So I've been there.
But yeah, so the 15th, they miss him at the dentist's office, and it only takes just a few more days to the 20th.
5 days.
And there's more murders.
Oh, and this
course.
one like so breaks my heart. I mean, they're all sad, but like Max and Layla Needing, they're just like this little old couple. Like their granddaughter describes them as like her grandpa was salt of the earth. Her grandma was like obsessed with sports, and they were from the Midwest, and they were just like old school. Like we just leave our doors open. Like
She even says that.
Yeah.
I told them that
start locking
yeah,
their
start
doors.
locking your doors.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there, and the grandma, the woman says.
the grandma.
We don't. Yeah, we don't need to.
We're from the
You know,
Midwest.
we're from
Well,
the
no,
We're
Midwest.
not gonna
we don't,
live like
we don't
that.
do that.
Yeah,
we
we're
don't
not going to
do
live our
that.
lives
Right.
like that, yeah.
So she shot. Max is nearly decapitated, and then the 22 was connected to the Dale Osaki.
So this is the all-in-one case.
Mm-hmm.
So because there was an 8-year-old boy there too.
No. That was the Chanarong.
That was different.
Oh, that was the other one. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the next one that happens the same day.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. That's part 2.
So Chanarong Coveneth, 32 years old. This is the all-in-one. There was the Avia shoe print on the front porch, also the step of the living room. The male was executed. The wife or the girlfriend was sexually, she was the wife, was sexually assaulted. And then the young boy was sexually assaulted.
My God.
And they were also robbed. So the MOs there, the
shoe print.
The shoe
yes, this is literally the all-in-one.
I mean,
literally
if
everything.
He has the pattern. This was it.
Executing the husband or the male in the family is definitely a pattern that he does have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then sexually assaulting.
So then the next one, the Petersons, both shot in the head. They both survive. Chris gets up and chases him out of the house.
Can you even imagine? Like
No.
if you shoot somebody in the head and they get up and start chasing you.
Is this the one where he shoots her in the neck and it goes it goes in and out, but it literally just misses anything that is actually an issue, and she screams. And then the husband gets up and he shoots him in the head, and it doesn't go. It goes through, but it doesn't actually go all the way through.
Yeah, it doesn't penetrate.
They both survive.
It goes through his cheek,
but
right? Misses brain.
Yeah, because it's it's a different gun.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's a 25 auto.
So now he's trying to change shit up, though.
But because he didn't kill them, Salerno calls him a coward. And it makes the front page of the LA Times. And Salerno was like, yeah, that's when I started sleeping with a gun under my pillow.
Yeah, so that's...
because I didn't think that was going to make the front page.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so they talk about how...
fucking be crazy.
Thanks,
dude. Thanks a lot for putting a fucking target on my forehead.
Wait, and they said in this new gun, the 25, what's weird is that they noticed that the primer is red. Like there's a red, and they were like, okay, well that's old ammo. Like they don't even make that anymore. They haven't made it in forever. And this is where you see the little quote. You get a clip of Ramirez talking, where he says basically serial killers basically have to screw up in order to get caught.
Yeah.
Because it especially if things are random and things are disorganized and all that kind of stuff. And they talk about how now we know that the cops are saying we know whoever he is watching the news. Like we know that because we released the 911 call. And so that's how he knows that, okay, the husband survived and called 911, and that's how we got there. And so from that moment forward, whenever a crime was committed, the phones were either taken or the phone lines were slashed.
Yeah.
So they know he's watching the news.
They start dropping out. Yeah, exactly. They know that he's watching because he starts taking care of things that the news are talking about, like making sure that people can't call out and stuff, which is one of my biggest fears. Living alone or anything like that is whether or not somebody's going to be let me just incapacitate your phone too, so once I leave you can't do anything. I actually went to a 7-Eleven one time, and I was about to walk inside, middle of the night. I had just gotten off work, and this girl was standing outside smoking a cigarette. She was the person working there, and I was like, hey, what's up? And I went to go inside, and she was like, oh, sorry, we're closed. I was like, haha, okay, because 7-Eleven doesn't close.
Right.
And I went to go inside, and she was like, no, seriously, we're closed. I just got robbed at gunpoint. I'm waiting for the police to get here. And I was like, are you being serious right now? And she was like, yeah. I was like, do you want me to wait with you? Do you want to sit in my car so if they come back, we can, leave? And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. And she got into my car, and she was, shaking, not having a great time. And we waited until people showed up, and then she was like, "Okay," and then I left.
So that's so weird. I can't remember if I told you this story. So it was probably about a year and a half ago. I left here and I went home, but I stopped in the 7-Eleven that's right down the street from my house, and I was answering an email from a client. Something stupid had come in, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to answer this before I forget. And so I'm in my car, and I'm on my phone, and I'm typing the answer to this email, and I hit send, and as I hit send, I hear. On my window, and I look over, and it's a cop, And I mean, you know me. I get very
whatever,
I get
hey.
very upset. Like when
Yeah.
I focus on shit, and
Yes.
to the exclusion of everything else. And so and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, there's a cop. Oh shit, there are like 3 cop cars in the parking lot. What the
You're
fuck?
surrounded
Like
at
what
this
the hell?
point.
And so and like I rolled down my window and I was like, sir, and he was like, sir, have you been here a long time? I'm like, no, dude, I just got here.
pulled up,
I was
yeah.
answering an email with the guy. Like, here's the email I was sending on the phone with the what, and he's like, sir, there's been a robbery here. We were already en route. They were yeah. Go home.
Just getting robbed.
That's like exactly what happened to me. Like when I went to go inside, she's like, "We're closed." I
Yeah,
was
like I must have pulled up right after it
"Okay."
happened. Yeah.
And then go inside. She's like, "No, seriously, I was just robbed at gunpoint." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry about that. Let
Well,
me stay with you though."
And to your point, so this is where the news is saying that gun sales go through the roof.
yes,
Locks and security systems
they
are
interview the
going
one
through
girl.
the
They're
roof.
like, "Are you gonna buy a gun?" "Yes, I am." "Do you know how to use one?" "No, I don't."
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, and self-defense
Oh,
classes,
good.
like karate classes are on the rise.
Right.
And so then the next one, and this is kind of like a major point for Gil from a personal story perspective with him, is August 7th. He gets a call about another murder that's happened, and it's only 5 minutes from his house.
Right.
And his wife, she's like, "Oh, you got another call?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, where is it?" Do you want to just take a sec?
I just have to pee really quick.
I was gonna say, do you want to just take a minute?
Well,
Or do you
should we
just
just
keep
take a
going?
little break really quick
I mean, we can do that.
before we move on?
Yeah.
You want to? It's up to you guys. I don't care. I'm just gonna run to the bathroom very quickly. So, do you guys want to take a 2-minute break? 2-minute little
I
break?
can keep going. You want to go? You tell me.
Let's just keep going.
Okay.
Okay, keep going. I'll be right back.
We'll clean that up in post. And so his wife says, "Well, okay, well, where is it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's like 5 minutes down the road." And she's freaked out. She's like, "Nope, that's too close to home. That's too much. You're not leaving this house until we all leave this house because I'm taking the kids and leaving,
Right.
and we're not coming back until this is solved."
Which I'm surprised she didn't do that earlier.
Well, and so
I
like
feel
that's
like
the thing.
I would have been gone.
Well, yeah, because and you had kind of touched on that where when Salerno had the interview with the
Yeah.
one reporter, and he's like, I was trying to say, oh yeah, it really showed, this really showed what
Yeah.
kind of guy he is, because he's a coward,
Right.
and he's like, and all of a sudden now I'm calling him a coward on the front page.
Yeah.
Here's all of the details
I'm
of my life,
taunting him.
and yeah, I'm taunting him,
Right.
and oh by the way, I'm not home 20 hours a day, and I
Right.
got a wife and kids,
Right.
Because I'm working this stupid case.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
So that was Elias Abel West,
Mm-hmm.
35 years old. He was murdered, and then his wife was raped.
And that's the creepy one where I think this was the second or third time we've heard this now where the wife was told, "Don't look at me," and she says, "Okay, I swear to God I won't look at you," and he's like, "No, don't swear to God, swear to Satan."
Yeah, swear to say. Yeah.
Which weird.
He's just such a weirdo.
He is a total weirdo.
So then we have August 18th. We jump to San Francisco.
Oh, so before that, no, so you've got this is where Gil says he walks into the squad room, and he hears a bunch of guys. He hears a bunch of guys standing around talking about the case, but it's all bad information. And he's like, and one of the guys stops him and was like, "Hey, Gil, this is your case. What bring us up to speed?" And he's like, "Okay, well, first off, everything you guys have just been saying is wrong, and stop making shit up like that. No." And then he's like, and that's when he had the idea. So back the start of episode 1, we saw that little snip of the VHS, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, "We have the technology. Let's just he's like, I'm going to get up. He's like, I'm going to cut a video. We're going to send it out to all the police departments around the area. And it's going to have all the details and all the information in it because that way people stop making shit up and spreading bad information."
Yeah. Although you have some kind of snitch in the police department.
Obviously, but I feel like that's like a
Normal
forever
thing.
Yeah, forever. There's gonna be somebody that's a snitch in the fucking police department. So
So August 18th, we moved to San Francisco. Mr. Pan is executed. Mrs. Pan raped and shot in the head, but had a pulse.
So, and for those not familiar with the geography, so LA and San Francisco, I mean, yes, they're both in California, but California is a
Not
huge
close
state.
together
You're talking like
Right.
500 miles.
500 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this one, he ate food in the fridge, then regurgitated the food, then masturbated on top of the food, and then carved a bunch of satanic crap on the wall.
Masturbated on top of the regurgitated food?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that I remember that.
They matched.
Oh my God.
Your brain probably blocked that out.
Yeah.
The ammo matched ammo used to
had that
in
red.
the previous 3 crimes. So basically, LA briefs San Francisco on everything they have.
So once they know that there's a connection, like these red shell casings
Yeah.
or the red primer thing, so Salerno and Gill go to hop on a plane to get to San Francisco.
Oh yeah, and Laurel Erickson's on.
And the two, and Laurel Erickson and the other reporter are already on
There
the
they
plane.
How did you?
And and
Right,
so they're like, oh my, great, and like they said, like, oh yeah, they wanted to strike up a conversation, and they were like, yeah, no,
Fuck you.
oh yeah, but so the male reporter goes like just starts like walks. He's like, there's this guy out washing his car. And so the reporter, he's like, oh, kind of crazy stuff here in the neighborhood, huh? And he's like, oh yeah, and he's like, oh, who are you? What do you do? He's like, oh, I'm a cop. And he's like, oh, so like, did the other cop say anything? He's like, oh yeah, it's the same as the same shit that's been going on in L.A. All the writing on the walls, all that satanic crap, demonic element to things, and so like, and the reporter. He's like, I don't know how I kept my jaw from dropping.
Yeah.
He's like, because we had none of that info at all.
And he just gives it all.
Well,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice, everything. So yeah, Gil and Salerno go and they brief San Francisco on everything they have.
Well, and they try to corner Salerno coming out of the house with this info, where they're like, oh, we understand that, Jack the Ripper was written on the walls. And this is where they're like, dude, Salerno must be like a hell of a poker player, because like he didn't bat an eye. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing like that on the walls. And any information will come from the San Francisco Police Department.
Yeah,
Bye.
just like
Yeah.
straight up like,
Goodbye.
okay, bye.
So obviously.
But yeah, so they go
the-
brief. They go
right.
brief them and tell them everything.
Right,
Like they
yeah.
cart everything. Like
Yeah.
here's the Avia shoe. Here's
Right.
here's the ammo.
Right.
Here's the shell casings. This is how we know these cases are connected. Here's all of the data we have, because we're cops and we got an information share.
So now the mayor of San Francisco, Dianne Feinstein, wants to know what's going on, and the chief briefs her.
Well, because they asked the mayor's office, hey, would you put up a reward? They like, hey, would you put up a reward leading to the capture and arrest of this killer? And they were like, well, why? What's so special about this one? And they were like, well, it's a serial killer connected to things down in L.A. And then all of a sudden Feinstein was like, oh, well, tell me everything.
Now I want to
Yeah.
know more.
Yeah. So the chief briefs her. She holds a press conference, and Salerno said she let vomit important information talking about the Avia shoe and the ammo.
Well, she was like
What
talking
a
about
freaking
everything.
moron.
Oh, she
Yes,
gave up
absolute
everything.
Moron.
And supposedly the chief never told her not to.
I feel like that's not something that I like. It's one of those I
Like
shouldn't have to say
unspoken-
this
Yeah,
moments. You know what I
unspoken
mean?
things. Yeah.
Exactly. Where it's like, obviously these are things that only the killer would know. So maybe don't say
Yeah.
things like that, because you're tipping him off on what we are aware of. And if
Yeah.
he starts changing the shoes he's wearing
Uh-huh.
or the gloves he wears or his actions and what he does, then we can no longer connect
Have that connection.
these issues to other ones.
Well,
And
and,
that's-
so
and that's
for
the
me,
worst.
like the next deaths are on your hands. Like you fucking screwed up.
Yeah,
huge.
way bad.
Oh, and
Yeah.
that's the worst is like, and they do a shot with Salerno where he's just like, that's one of the things that's always driven me. He's like, we never found those shoes.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I wanted those shoes.
Yeah.
He's like,
Oh, they never found them?
No.
I didn't know that. Do you want
Just
some?
a little bit.
yeah. But yeah, so now obviously whoever the killer is knows everything that they know.
Yeah.
Gil's pissed off. They just think the case is over because it's been blown. They got nothing. They go up to his chief's. They go up to the chief's office and they're like, hey, we're out. And they go and they start drinking. Apparently, the chief calls the bar that he knows that they're at, because they always go to the same bar because cops have cop bars, and was like, hey, have a couple cups of coffee. Get your asses back here.
Yeah.
Get something to eat.
Yeah.
Come back.
Sober up.
We got shit to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, so then the chief holds a press conference and lights Feinstein's ass up. Like it was a thing of beauty, because he's like, oh yeah, we shared information with the the San Francisco Police Department, and a lot of it was confidential because da 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 da. And it's unfortunate that political parties for political motivations decided to release that information to the public because we didn't have very much to go on before, but now we have nothing,
Right.
Yeah,
and this
we
case
have a
is
heck
completely
of a lot
screwed.
less, is what he says, and it's insane to me that they even when it comes to like things that are going to be like released to the public, there should be a cap off on what people can say.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if they've changed the laws or if there's anything
Well,
that's
and
been
how is there
gone
not
on.
one? Like there wasn't one cop at her press conference that was
Like,
shut up. Hey,
Yeah, like, cut her mic. Cut her mic.
yeah.
Cut her mic. There should be one cop
Yeah,
there
I don't care
that's
if she's
taught
the
how
mayor.
to do all
Yeah,
the
no.
stuff to like cut the mic
Yeah,
and be like, we're done.
Okay, cop, you get to run the board today, and when she goes too far, just mute her mic.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the next thing I have, I skip things.
We're
So,
following you, girl.
It's
Come on.
August 24th, Mission Viejo, which is in Orange County. So he's back near LA. A 29-year-old woman is attacked. Her boyfriend, Bill Carnes, is shot in the head, but he's alive. The intruder said to her, "I am the Night Stalker." James Romero was like an eyewitness outside of the house, so he kind of noticed this strange car that was like slowly pulling up, and then he sees this strange car leave. He's able to recall a partial plate and description of the car.
See, which honestly, like, it just goes to show you, like, one of the things that's always crazy to me is how unreliable eyewitness testimony really is.
Yeah.
Because, okay, he got the color of the car right, but, like, the partial plate that he said he had, like, none of those actually matched. Like, it was close-ish. Like, they weren't. It wasn't
was pretty close.
It wasn't a B. It was a D. It wasn't a. It was
Yeah.
So I mean, it was.
Okay.
They
it was
were
weird
able
stuff.
to
Jumbled.
match
Yeah.
it though,
Yeah,
based
they were
off
able to
of what
figure
he
it out, yeah.
said. So this is then released to the public, and a guy calls and says his friend's car that matches that description was just stolen in Chinatown.
Yep.
It was a 1976 orange station wagon. So they find the car dumped.
It's in a parking lot. Yep.
Yeah, and so
Or a parking structure, I
they
think.
actually process it. And
Well,
What?
found
they
a
wait.
fingerprint.
Well, so they wait because they want to see, like, okay,
Yeah.
does he know that we know?
Right.
Is he going to come back to the car? And then they're like, no, he's not coming back to the car. Screw
Not
it.
after
We'll
it hit
process
the
it. Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So they find a fingerprint, but I mean, at the time, they're not able to like run this fingerprint through like any type of
Yeah, there's not, like, a
because
database.
Right,
Right.
doesn't-
Exactly.
doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah.
But-
So that was, So again, the boring side of
Right.
police work is okay, we have all these fingerprint cards.
Right.
We have to do like basically a 1-to-1
Tedious.
comparison
Right.
against all
And
these
And
cards.
especially
Single.
you're talking
Right.
about back in '85, where it's like we don't have like this database where you can be like, okay, let me just input it really quick,
Oh,
and then
yeah,
it's
I
just
know.
gonna.
Yeah, it's not like
us.
CSI.
No,
yeah,
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
And then in 12 hours, it's gonna be like, hey, we have a match. Like that's not how that works.
No.
Okay, this next part is like just like the best part. Okay, August
It's the
27th.
best part.
So they've set up tip lines. A caller calls in and says her dad is a street person who hangs out at a bus depot, and he talks to this guy Rick, who said he murdered an Asian couple with a .22, and he ditched the gun in Tijuana. So they go and they find this caller's dad, and he's like, "Yep, all
That
correct,
happened.
all
Yep.
correct." And somehow they're able to go to Tijuana and recover the gun based on what this guy could tell them, which is like remarkable.
Crazy, yeah.
Which is like why
Remarkable.
obviously this guy gave up all
A
of the
lot
information
of
he had to
info.
this random guy.
Right.
For whatever reason.
So also they recover a boombox that was taken from the Lang murders.
Yep.
So now they have two pieces
Which
of
they knew because it
evidence.
had like
Right.
the
The
son
serial
still had
number,
the
yeah.
paperwork with the serial number and all that stuff on it, so they were able to match it up.
Yeah. So meanwhile, in San Francisco, a police informant named Earl Gregg.
I thought you were about to say Earl Grey, and I was about to be like, oh, I love his tea. They're really good. I also thought that somebody said stained glass teeth, but it was like stained. It was like stained. I don't know how they described him, but I thought they said stained glass teeth, and I was like, oh, he has like
Interesting
stained glass teeth. That's crazy.
So, wow.
Sorry about that.
Meanwhile, in San Francisco, police informant Earl Gregg,
I love his teas.
has this bracelet that he claims he got from his wife's mother. But she said she got it from her boyfriend, Armando Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
And they go find Armando Rodriguez, and he says, well, I got it from my friend Rick. And this bracelet was taken from a crime scene. So they go find Armando and ask for his help. And he basically tells the cops to fuck off. But
good.
I love the guy who punches him in the face. He just jabs him right in the face.
I had to say though, like in my notes, like when I was taking them, I was like, okay, did this guy just like admit to like openly like
Beating a suspect?
beating
Yes,
a suspect?
absolutely.
Which I'm not. Oh, I'm not like.
Or actually not
this-
even a suspect, a witness.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not
Like,
trying
that's-
to say that
witness who's
it's
friends
just
with a
witness.
serial killer.
Yes, exactly. I was like, I'm not trying to say that I'm like opposed to that, but also
Like-
like I don't think that's legal.
I understand how it could
I
happen.
don't think that's legal though. Okay, but okay.
And the ends might have justified the means.
The ends justify the means. In this
Absolutely.
case, the ends justify the
Absolutely.
So, punches him in the face, and the guy's like, "Oh, that's all you have." And the cop like looks at him and like undoes his tie, and he is like, basically like, "I will rip you from your head to
your
asshole."
Yeah.
And the guy, and he goes to like go punch him again, and the guy's like,
Richard
Ramirez.
Ramirez.
Okay, I give-
Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
What a
So
pussy.
that was freaking awesome, and that is the end of episode 3.
Now we have Richard Ramirez.
Now we know.
In our heads, we know that this is the guy we're looking for.
Who
So
the
now we
fuck
have
this
pictures
is.
of him. We know exactly who he is. We know how to get him.
Okay, so episode 4 opens with a little background on Richard Ramirez.
It's a hard knock
Right,
life
exactly.
for
And here's
him.
the thing, like,
It's a hard knock life.
it's so hard because it's like, as child Richard Ramirez, I feel really bad for you. His dad would like to punish him, would go tie him up to a cross on the cemetery and leave him there. He witnessed a cousin murder his girlfriend. He was abused terribly. He was always an outsider as a kid. He was known as like Five Finger Rick. Like he stole from
Which
people
I was like,
all
how
the
many fingers
time.
does anyone else have?
Well, it means you have sticky fingers.
No, I know what it means.
Okay, I'm like, okay.
Five Finger Rick, see? Yeah, it's very old timey. Yeah, even though it's
When
just the
people say
80s.
five finger anything, I'm like, but how many fingers do you have?
Well, because
Because
the
I
whole.
most definitely have 5 fingers.
Well, no,
Like,
because
am
it's
I
the old,
weird one?
like the 5 finger discount
Yeah,
was the
right.
was the old slang for stealing something. See, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Sam. Yeah.
So, hard knock life, you know? I mean, yeah, like I said, you
Okay.
feel bad for little child Richard, but then it's like,
But again,
you don't
you
grow
can
up to-
only
right.
you can only blame your
so
childhood
much
for
on
so
your
much.
childhood.
Right.
Like a
exactly.
lot of again,
A
like
There's
lot
that
people
of
that get through a
people-
lot of stuff and don't end up
Right.
murdering
That-
multiple
Right,
people.
right.
girl he abducted when she was
Right,
6.
Right.
Right.
Did
Right.
not grow up
To be
to
a
To
be
be a
evil.
fucking
killer.
serial
To be-
killer.
yeah.
Exactly.
So then we have the librarian at the LA Public Library.
I love this part.
He's the one that runs it. He has a run-in with Ramirez. He says, like, this guy comes in and he's dirty and he smells like a goat. His
I love
teeth
him.
were messed up. So he wanted to know where the books were on horoscope and torture were. And he was like, and thank God those books weren't in my section of the library. So yeah, I mean, we have like such little, the documentary gives very little background on like
him as a
him
person.
as
Yeah.
a person. But that,
Which is good and also bad.
yeah, from like me wanting to know like the psychology and like motive.
I'm one of those
and,
people,
all
too.
of
Like,
that.
I would like to
I wanna
know.
and not to like.
But I also don't want you to glorify.
no, I don't want to like
I want to hear more about the
romanticize
people
or
that he actually
glorify.
killed so they can get their, like, time and,
Right.
like,
So do I, but I mean, like,
But at the same time, I'm
I
curious.
want to know more about.
Exactly.
Those-
I think that
Yeah.
that's what the main
Right.
thing that drives people that are interested, like
Right.
you and I, and also Dave, and in people that
Yeah.
you know do this type of
like
stuff.
I hate him, and
I'm not
obviously
just, like-
he's a monster, but like
Right.
I just want to know like the causes.
I'm not just like tell me about your murders. I'm like, tell me about why you started doing
Well,
this
because, like-
and the things that
Mhm.
you know, your background.
it goes to like nature versus nurture, and like you
Absolutely.
just want to know. And like Mira says he's like a bad seed or like whatever. And,
Well,
like,
it's very rare that you find people that they're like, oh, they were just so loved and so cared for.
well, right.
that
I
this
mean,
happens.
that like doesn't
Not
really
that
happen.
Not that it doesn't ever.
No, but it's
so rare.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's so rare.
today I was talking to my classes and we were learning about like the different parts of the brain, and I like told them like the frontal lobe of your brain, they're finding out with serial killers is almost all of them have had some type of brain trauma to the frontal
falling,
lobe of
being
their brain.
hit in the head, something.
And I was like, almost all of them have that in common. And it makes sense because your frontal lobe is like responsible for like judgment and reasoning and also impulse control.
Yeah, and what keeps you from being a
And-
sociopath?
right,
Yeah.
and- right. And,
right.
But I mean, it's just like, see, like that is fascinating. Like
That's-
that's
it
what I
is.
want to know more.
Absolutely,
about,
that is
like,
fascinating to me.
that. So, anyways, August 30th, they matched the prints. They had 2 other Richard Ramirez prints. And they find a match, and they also had a booking photo of him, and they are like, you know, his rap sheet's pretty light, he comparatively.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't for like attempted murder. It wasn't for
yeah, it was
yeah.
Yeah,
light.
no,
yeah. So the informant from the Greyhound bus station confirms that is him. That is
That's
that
right.
Rick.
Yep. That's it.
So the chief wants to release the name and the photo, but Salerno and Gill want to wait. They're like, give us 24 hours. We will get this dude. But basically they're like, we can't. There will be like a media frenzy.
They're like, can you imagine
if they find out we're sitting on a murder
if somebody
warrant,
else dies today
Yeah.
in those 24 hours
Yeah.
before you
there'll
catch
be
him?
an issue,
Yeah.
Right. And so against their wishes, the name and photo is released to the public.
But also, it's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
totally a
Ends
good
up
thing.
being the best capture story of all time.
Of all time.
So August 31st, they set up surveillance at a Greyhound bus depot because they know he takes the bus a lot. He was actually in Arizona at this time, and he was going to be coming back to LA. So he comes in the depot, and he basically recognizes cops right away, even though they were
Well,
undercover.
When he says it's funny, and the cop, and so I think
Yeah.
it's Salerno was talking about. He's like, because okay, they look like they have dirty clothes, but
they
their
all-
hair is freshly
and, like,
washed
perfect
Yeah.
teeth.
and perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So he notices, and he like walks right out.
Yep.
And he walks into a liquor store and basically sees his face on every single newspaper, magazine, and he panics. And he hops on a bus. So as he's on this bus, a passenger has a newspaper in his lap and is like, huh. Realizes it's him.
This is the guy.
In front of him. Passenger pulls a cord, runs out to the payphone, calls the cops. Is like, dude's on this bus right now. This passenger then flags down a truck from the gas company and is like, follow
Follow that
the
car,
bus.
see?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Follow that car.
Follow the bus. So
Which again, imagine being the gas truck driver
like,
and
what
like
the
some
fuck?
some
Yeah,
random
like,
dude.
Really, the Night Stalker is on that bus? Here I go.
yeah, yeah, right. So the chase is on. So they chase him through like a bunch of neighborhoods. Eventually, he's like on
A
foot.
whole bunch of people are calling in constantly about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's being like followed by a helicopter at this point. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's on foot. So this is what I love. So he goes to try to like yank a woman from a car.
Yeah.
And her husband, Manuel Torres, is a badass. and realizes like what's going on and that it's him, and hits him in the head with a metal pole twice. And as he's doing this, is like yelling for his wife, "Go get my gun."
Oh yeah.
So at this point, there's like a brawl in the street and a crowd.
Oh yeah, because now a crowd is
now
gathering.
a crowd.
Crowd
Exactly.
is like forming around them, and the crowd is beating him, and they've detained him. It's like citizens arrest.
Yep.
It's freaking
Perfect.
amazing.
It's
and
great.
they hold him there until the cops get there. So this cop gets there and puts him in the car, and he's like, I realize that like this crowd is gonna kill him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they want blood at this point.
Everyone's been so scared this entire
Right.
time.
But that is just like the most satisfying
So satisfying.
capture story. Like this dude is like beating him in the head with a pole.
And again, not saying I condone it, but I would have understood if he would have just been dead when the cops showed up.
Yeah,
I'm just,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
Right. I know. I know. But then, like, I see both sides of it where it's like, and I think Gil mentions this, is like, I wanted to talk to the guy I've devoted the past 5 months of my life to.
Yep.
Like, I wanted to know
What his
what
reasoning.
the fuck was going
What's
through
going
his
on?
head.
Yeah.
So Salerno and Gil interview him.
Oh, and so Salerno gets nowhere.
Well, interesting though. Like Ramirez knew all about Salerno.
Oh yeah.
From the Hillside Strangler case, and this is where you find out that he had studied the Hillside Strangler and Bundy, and Salerno said that he was a student, and Ramirez basically thought it was pretty cool. Like the same cop, Salerno is working his case, is like after him,
but
like,
still didn't tell him anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So that he was going to be in the same cell.
So yeah, they put him in the
Hillside.
same cell as Kenneth Bianchi, and they let him know that.
And he seemed like he was excited.
And they were trying to get him to tell them more information by making him feel more important, which I thought was pretty interesting because, like, for me, I'm like, don't give them anything.
Right.
Don't give them anything that they want. They're not
Right.
important.
Right.
They're pieces of shit. But I see, like,
At the
the
same
reverse
time, you're
Again,
trying
the psychology,
to
yeah.
get anything,
that you're trying,
anything from these people.
Right. So from there, I don't know if you have anything else. I kind of just kind of got through episode 4.
No. So I mean, and then so then you've got Gil, who basically goes in and starts talking to him like
in Spanish.
Well, yeah. So I mean, just talking to a guy that grew up on the streets,
Right.
just like Ramirez did, which got him to relax.
Trying
a
to
little
relate.
bit.
Yeah.
And so the one thing is like kind of touched on a little bit earlier. One of the reasons why I didn't know about the whole child molesting side of this story is because during the case, or when they were getting ready to go to trial, they decided they didn't need to. Because they had they had an overwhelming amount of evidence tying him to all these murders. Like they were going to put him away forever. Death penalty was a thing. They didn't feel it necessary to put the kids through the trauma of having to testify. And I get that.
I get that. And also, that protects their anonymity. And it protects them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not forever going to be looked at as the victim of Richard Ramirez.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it protects them in that sense. And, like, so not only do they not have to relive the trauma, they don't have to carry that with them. They're anonymous.
Yep.
At that point.
And so, there was the one scene where, they were transporting him from booking to the prison. And Salerno said it was absolutely crazy. Like, girls were, like, flashing their tits at him when they were driving by. And he's like, and we knew, and they
Just girls being like, I love you, Richard.
Dude, and they showed the
Titties.
spring, the collage of photos that were sent to him
Pussy.
when he was in prison. It was insane.
More titties.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely nuts. And so obviously it convicted. And
43 counts, guilty of all, sentenced to death by gas chamber.
And it was weird watching
Gas chamber.
Watching his evolution during the course of that trial was really weird. Like he went from very quiet and reserved to suddenly thinking he's a celebrity.
Waving
and
to
he's
the
wearing
girls.
sunglasses in the courtroom.
He draws
and
a
he's-
pentagram on his palm.
Yeah, and
then he's like, "Hail Satan!"
Yeah.
He's like waving at the girls.
Oh, yeah.
He's smiling at them.
He's
like
so gross.
But yeah. So anyway, he dead.
But
He did.
Yeah, but then
I say he did.
He dies of cancer almost 2 decades later.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm
that's the sad part. He was on death row for I believe 24 years, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly.
But that's such a bullshit.
And that's
how is that possible?
So that's because California
doesn't kill
is a
people.
super liberal state, and
They never kill
Then why have the death penalty?
that's one of the questions about it.
Then why have it?
Yeah, because you would think with that overwhelming amount of
With
evidence.
him.
But.
Okay, but
So federally, we've just started executing people again. Like the federal.
Oh, yeah.
So is there a point in time when the state it doesn't matter anymore and the feds can step in and be like, we're killing this person?
Only if it is a federal conviction in a federal court.
Are you positive?
Yeah.
Because what about that woman that was just executed for stealing a woman's baby out of her womb and then remember
That's
she was
kidnapping. That's a federal crime. That's
But murder is not a federal crime.
But well, no, it is.
unless you commit it in multiple states.
Okay, well that's really fucked
so
up.
just
so
as he stayed within California.
murder is okay, but stealing someone's fetus is
Well, it's like
not.
something as simple as if you pass counterfeit money, that's a federal crime. And
Yeah.
so that's not even a major crime, but that's a federal crime.
Okay.
So they're just different classifications of stuff. Yeah, but like kidnapping.
Whether it's $1, it's a fucking
Right.
$5,000.
Kidnapping,
doesn't
but
matter.
has to cross state lines. Kidnapping.
No, I think even kidnapping, kidnapping
Within
in
a
general
state.
is federal jurisdiction, I believe.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a that's one of those really weird, and that all stems back to the Lindbergh case.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah,
that's
Lindbergh
why
baby.
because
The baby Lindbergh.
Yep. But yeah, so I mean, and to me, it is a little bit ridiculous that he stayed alive for 24 years,
And then
He
died
died of fucking
cancer.
cancer.
Yeah.
and I hope it was a horribly
suffering.
painful,
Yeah.
wasting away
Yeah.
death.
What
I-
pisses me off about
But
that
he
entire
dies
thing.
sorry.
Go ahead.
He
No,
dies
go ahead.
within a hospital too. You were
Right.
being cared
Yeah,
for. You
cared
probably
for.
had palliative care. You probably had because it's
There's nurses on
we're
staff
supposed to
and
do
people are-
humane. We're supposed to treat you humanely, and it's you're probably morphine and dying that way.
Yeah, you're
when
dying
you literally
completely
cut the
dissociated, yeah.
eyeballs from one of your victims and took them with you. You're a piece of shit.
should just let it waste away.
Yeah.
You've tortured women
Well,
or
and
people
children,
in
I'm
general.
like,
yes,
yes.
you've tortured people. And that's the thing that I thought was really insane when
that.
they said that he died of cancer. I was like, of cancer? He
It's
didn't.
such
yeah,
a
wait, what?
bullshit.
He
Yeah.
didn't sit in a fucking electric chair. He
Yeah,
didn't
no.
just die in prison in pain.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't anything like that.
No.
He died of cancer.
I mean,
and he was in a hospital.
and it was only 2 decades. I mean, such a short time when you
Right.
think about
considering
it.
that it was we had
He was in his
Well, because he was
20s.
young.
Yeah,
a
when
crime
he was
yeah.
20,
every
so
other
he dies in
day,
his 40s.
if not more.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna seriously be like, okay, in 2 decades, you're just gonna sit there,
And die a death, and you're probably
and be fine.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I guess at end of the day, I was a fascinating watch.
It was,
I
absolutely.
enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I did too. I actually
I
really
really
enjoyed watching it.
I didn't mention this, but I really like the Night Stalker graphic and the music and the production value of
So
it.
don't be
I thought
shocked
was
when
really
we
good.
start using that. In
Yeah.
our-
Yeah, no, they did a great job
Yeah.
capturing the
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
If it that's I just as a side note, I
Great.
the one thing that pissed me off about Wonder Woman 84, I was like,
There's
okay,
no 80s in it.
there's one 80s song.
Yeah,
I'm like, so
one.
you had hundreds of millions of dollars in budget and production. You couldn't license more than one Frankie
One
Goes to
80s.
Hollywood song.
You're
Like
right.
and it's not even the one everybody knows. It wasn't even Relax.
Right.
It was what's wrong with you? What? Yeah.
hilarious.
So yeah, but no, I did. I thought the production value was really good, and I guess the directors that did this are the same people that did. What was it? The last Cartel that came out about a year and a half ago, and allegedly there is supposed to be a part 2
Oh.
along the way.
Kind of like
coming with
Cocaine
this.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Cocaine Cowboys
So
too.
we'll see how I'll be interested to see what direction they take it in.
Is it what is it? A drama?
No, it's
documentary.
Yeah.
Documentary, yeah.
So
About
we'll see.
cartels. I'm just not interested.
Okay,
It's
but
just
you
not
know,
my
if you
thing.
ever watch Cocaine Cowboys, you might change your mind because it's actually pretty good. And I'm not interested in cartel things either. But I watched that one and I was like, Like Land.
Oh,
made
no,
me
no.
watch
I'm
it.
sorry. I
And
meant
was
there's
like,
going to be, they're working on a part 2 of The Night Stalker.
Oh, what?
Which, that's why I said I'm kind of interested to see
For
what
why?
direction they're going to take it and like what, like
For
where
why?
are they
What
going?
What more
Well,
could you do?
because there is more than one Night Stalker, too.
Yeah, because there's Kolchak too.
Yeah. So, could be that.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Volume 2.
Volume 2. All right.
Well,
Night
thanks
Stalker
so
2,
much, everybody.
Electric
Boogaloo. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Trash Pandas, where we covered the Night Stalker.
We'll be
case.
back next week with 90 Day.
90 Day Fiancé, and then we're going to go back into another documentary. We'll let you know what it is. We'll stay in the studio, and we love you guys all so much. So thank you for watching, and
Goodbye.
bye.